You'll recognize my next guest if you were a fan of the early 2000s show Lost. You'll know him as Liam Pace. If you're a fan of Stargirl, you know him as Sportsmaster. An avid indie film supporter. Welcome to the Dev Show, Neil Hopkins. I'm here with Neil Hopkins of Stargirl, and for some of you who may know, I like Lost, so he's in Lost too, which is pretty neat. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm really good. Yeah. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I mean, I know you've probably been asked quite a bit, but how has this whole experience of being at home been for you?
It's been challenging. I've got two kids. I got a 9-year-old and I got a 6-year-old. And so they got, their school stopped in beginning of middle of March, like everyone's did. And ask any parent, it's been very, very challenging to get to do the Zoom classes and to not let them go on play dates and hang out with their friends. It's been tough. It's been 4 months, so it's been pretty grueling. But you know what? We're healthy, and there's a lot of people who've got it a lot worse than we do. So I try to keep that in mind. But I don't love it.
Yeah, exactly. Me neither. I mean, I'm stuck in here watching a bunch of TV shows. And have you been binging anything on TV, on Netflix, stuff like that?
I was watching in the beginning of quarantine The Office with my daughter because they put it on Netflix, and she's 9, and she became obsessed with The Office, which was really cool. And they get married in Niagara Falls, actually.
Yeah, they do. I was talking to Oscar. I was talking to Oscar just a bit ago
Oh,
because
no way.
yeah, he was in Niagara Falls for a convention, and we were talking about how they actually didn't even get to go out to the falls. Just Jim and Pam got to go and film out up here. But yeah, so and that's not gonna go away, eh? Once someone gets hooked on The Office, I know so many people who have watched The Office, and then it's just passion all all the way through.
Yeah, so I had watched I was a huge fan of the British version in the early
Yeah,
2000s, and and then when the American version came out, I wasn't crazy about it at first. Like I wasn't that into it because I was just so in love with the British version. But I got to say, eventually, I actually liked the American version more.
really?
Yeah, because the British version, when you watch it again, it's so depressing. It's so funny, but it's just so glum, and that was the intention, but it's just so glum and depressing, and you just you can't. It's so hard to watch Ricky Gervais as that character because it's so cringy, and it's cringy to watch Michael Scott and everything too. But I love the American Office more, I think, because my daughter loves it so much. Like she's a freak about The Office. Like she watches it every day, and she watches like the same 5 episodes over and over and over again. So so at the beginning of quarantine, we were binging that to get back to your question, and then she kind of like took it and ran with it, and then I was watching What We Do in the Shadows on FX, which is really funny, and then I just watched I Know This Much Is True on HBO with Mark Ruffalo, which was outstanding, really depressing but outstanding.
Back to like talking about conventions sort of thing. Did you get to go to many conventions? Have you ventured into that world yet?
I did a few with Lost, because Lost had a lot of that. But Lost happened before Facebook became really big, and before Instagram and all that. If Lost were to have happened now, it would have been a much bigger thing for me because I wasn't one of the main characters. I was only in like 6 episodes, but I was a pretty well known character. But so I did like maybe 10 like events and fan things for Lost, but I wasn't like in the inner circle of that whole fandom thing. I wish I was. It would have been fun because I know they did a lot of the trips around the world doing signings and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah. Do you get recognized as much for that character anymore, or has it kind of subsided?
it hasn't subsided, but it still happens, but it's not often, but it does happen, and it's just funny, it's like it always happens when I'm like when you least expect it. Like someone will just start staring at you. We were at like Dave and Buster's with my kids, and we were sitting down to eat some of that disgusting food, and and this guy came up to me. The guy was staring at me, and then he walked over to me, and he looked like I was like kind of like not. I wasn't sure what he was going to say or do or any. It's the last thing in my mind. I'm not thinking about Lost all day. I'm just there.
Yeah.
And he like comes up to me and he's like gets really close to me. He's like, I just want to say, he's like, I really, really loved your work on Lost. And he's like, I loved your character. And, he's like, I'm someone that struggled with addiction and I really loved your portrayal of there. It was really nice, but he was like really close to me and it was a little intense. So sometimes I get that. That was one of the rare ones, but a lot of times, like if I'm at the checkout at the grocery or whatever, that like someone will be like, you all, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so embarrassing, but it's also kind of fun.
Do your kids understand that whole? Have they watched Lost? Because I remember I watched it at 12, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't have watched this at 12.
Yeah, no, it's not. My daughter could probably watch it. My daughter is an old 9-year-old. She's an old soul. So, I mean, there was a lot of stuff in the office that was not appropriate for her.
Yeah.
In the office, and we would fast forward through it when we could get to the remote in time. But she's seen a lot in the course of that series and the 9 seasons of episodes where I'm like, well, I guess you know about this now.
Yeah, right.
But most of it, I'm sure, just went over her head. But Lost, I think she could watch it. My kid, my son is 6, so he wouldn't care. I mean,
No.
he barely watches Stargirl, but my daughter loves Stargirl, and that's really cool. It's cool that I'm on a show that A, she can watch, and that B, like, she is the sweet spot, like, demographic. Not that 9-year-old girls are the sweet spot demographic for that, but because she skews older, she's like kind of a teenager.
Yeah.
And she's very bright, so she understands a lot of stuff that maybe other 9-year-olds don't, but it's really cool. We were watching episode 7 last night of Stargirl, and it's just, I just like watching her watch it. It's so into it, and my wife does too. And then at the end of every episode, at the end of it, she's like, no, like she doesn't want it to end. She wants to see the next one because she's used to binging stuff on Netflix.
Yeah. Oh, everybody's got used to that now.
Yeah, but I love that it's not that. I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
And it makes it more exciting. I mean, all like the best shows, like Lost, like Game of Thrones, like a lot of these shows that have been really popular over the past decade or so, were not dumped all episodes at once. And I think it's more fun because it becomes a communal event rather than an isolating, I'm going to sit by myself on my iPad in my bed and watch all episodes. Not that I don't love doing that, because I do, but there's something to be said for like teasing it out,
What is working on a set? How is that different working on Stargirl than it was back in 2004 with all the different technology and different sets and?
Well, in some ways it's similar, and in other ways it's different. With Lost, I never knew when I was coming back. I never knew. No one knew anything. They didn't tell you anything. With Stargirl, I knew I was going to do at least 7 episodes. I ended up doing 9. We didn't know where it was going, but we were all locked in for a certain period of time. And it was like late February to early September. It was a long time. So we were all like in it. And, it was the same kind of thing where you didn't know if you were going to die or anything. Although I asked Jeff Johns early on if Croc needs to buy life insurance. And I won't tell you what he said.
No.
I don't want to spoil anything, but you want to know when you're on a show, you want to know, like, am I going to make it to the end of the season?
Yeah.
You don't know what to expect. I knew I was doing a minimum of 7, but I didn't know if I was going to make it to the end of the season or not. So we'll see.
Right on. So isn't Stargirl the first DCU show to be on CW?
Yes, it is. And I think Swamp Thing is going to be on now. But yeah, that was reverse engineered. It was not intended for CW originally at all. It was going to just be on DC. And then later on Netflix or Amazon or whatever. But while we were shooting it, every time we would like start a new episode, there'd be new rumors going around set about where it was going to end up. And for a while, it was going to be on HBO Max. And then for a while, it was going to be on I can't even remember. There was so many different rumors, and so we never knew. And then long after we wrapped, so we wrapped thinking it was going to be on DC, and then uh, it was going to be on HBO Max. That was the rumor,
Yeah.
and that didn't happen. And then we found out, I think, like in the fall, in October and November, after we had finished shooting, we found out, because we all, me and the like Injustice Society members all keep in touch. We have like a WhatsApp thread, and so we
Right
talk
on.
on that every week. And you know, because we all genuinely like each other, and we found out that it was going to be on the CW, and we were pumped, you know. But I don't like watching it on the CW. I like watching it on DCU because that's how it was originally intended, and that's how it was written. And so with CW, they had to cut some stuff out, and then they had to put in these artificial commercial breaks that weren't originally written that way. So sometimes it'll cut to commercial, and it'll seem like really abrupt. The
Yeah.
structure will seem a little abrupt in the editing, but that's just because it was never intended to be on commercial TV or network TV.
I haven't seen something like that before where that's the scenario that happened where it has to be forced into commercial TV. But I mean, the show in itself I think does a really good job. And getting into your character, and I know again that it's something that you probably get asked a lot, but I just people like to hear, I guess, like what was your experience trying to get into that character? Are you an actor that tries super hard to get into character, or do you just go on set and kind of do your thing?
Well, it depends on the role. I mean, there are some roles where you have to do a lot of external things to you know, whether it's talk differently, learn an accent, you know, very different physicality, different, you know, speech pattern, whatever it is. Um, but you know, this was a character that was like very much in my wheelhouse. I mean, it was a character that I just sort of clicked with right away, you know, when I got this audition sides originally. And by the way, we didn't know, nobody knew what they were auditioning for. Like you knew it was called Stargirl, you knew it was a Berlanti show, you knew it was probably it was something you want to be on, but we didn't know who our characters were. And my character was not called Proc Sportsmaster. I didn't know that until I got the offer. So when I got the offer, I was like, wait a second, this isn't the one I read for. You know, when I got the actual deal memo in my email from my agent, and then I was like, Croc Sportsmaster, what is that? You know, and then I Googled it because I didn't know who Sportsmaster was. I
Right
was
on.
into comics when I was like 11 and 12, but I haven't really been, you know, I've watched the Marvel movies, and we watched The Flash and Arrow with my daughter. Although we kind of stopped watching Arrow, it was a little too violent. But um, you know, I wasn't super plugged into that world, and I didn't know about the JSA, and I didn't know about the ISA, because that's kind of like deep cut, like DC stuff. That's not like stuff that is common knowledge for people. Even people that are into comic books haven't necessarily been exposed to Stargirl or you know, the JSA. But you know, as soon as I got the part that night, I was just like, I spent hours on Google, like learning everything I could about Sportsmaster and the history of it. And I learned that it was a character from 1941 originally, which I just thought was so cool, and that I was the first actor to ever play him.
Which,
You
yeah,
know,
that's awesome.
other than voice acting. Uh, and that was cool. So I didn't have anybody else's performance to live up to, and I didn't have anybody, you know, I wasn't going to be haunted by other versions of this character, because this was like, I was originating this role. So that was really cool. And, you know, when I first read about Sportsmaster, it was like, Sportsmaster? Who came up with that name, you know? And I love how they do that in the show, how Courtney keeps going, who came up with these names? Because they're old timey names. They're from the 40s.
Yeah.
The comics were brand new, and they're corny as hell, a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But they make a joke of it, and I love that, you know?
Like the Office, they just a way of bringing things into humor and kind of connecting with the audience, right? In a way.
Yeah. So they walk that Jeff, and this is all Jeff Johns, really. They walk that fine line between like self-aware and funny, but not, it doesn't go into campy, you know? And the same with Sportsmaster. And so when I met Jeff, Joy and I went and met Jeff and James Robinson and all the writers, and it was so cool. And they told us about the show, and they told us, because we didn't know anything. We didn't know what was going to happen or what it was going to be like. All I knew was like, this is a really cool one. Like, this is going to be, this is, first of all, like, to get to be in the DC universe is so cool. And second of all, to get to be on a show that's Jeff Johns' first show running gig, and that's from a comic that he created, is like, you just knew, okay, this is going to be his baby. I mean, this is going to be that he has his fingerprints all over. It's his from its inception. And so you just knew it was going to be good, and you knew it was going to be top tier in terms of the budget, in terms of everything. And it was. So, yeah, so I learned about Sportsmaster, and I talked to Jeff about the character, and it was all in the sides. You know, you figured out who this character was in the sides. The first side was like the first time I meet Pat Dugan in the pit stop, and I introduced myself, and the character wasn't called Croc, but it was the same scene. And then there was another scene that they had written that wasn't in the show. It was just to try to see like my dangerous, scary side, because that's the
Oh, really?
character, is that you know, he's funny and he's likable, but he's also a total psychopath. And
Oh, yeah.
and he's a badass, and he's just very dangerous. Like, he'll kill you, you know, but he'll smile while doing it. And that was Jeff Johns' big thing, is like, he'll kill you with a smile. Like, and I love that. I mean, for me, like, that's a layup. I mean, I can do that. You know, that wasn't, so it wasn't something that I like needed to really reach for. It was something that I had it. And, but I knew I had to be in really good shape. And so I worked out with a trainer and for months, and got in the best shape of my life, best shape I could get in under the circumstances in this 43-year-old body. And, yeah, that was the biggest aspect of it in terms of, the effort was just, I knew, like, you can't own a gym called Rip City and be called Sportsmaster and look like a schlub, you know? So that was the biggest component of it that I had to really like work at. The acting stuff wasn't, for this role, was not a big stretch. It was just fun. And Jeff was always like, go farther, go farther, go far. He's a big character, you know? He's a meathead, and he's you know, an alpha male, and he's kind of a bully. And I mean, he's a freaking sport parent, you know? He's one of those parents that yells at the coaches, except in this case, they literally kill him and bury him.
Yeah, kill him, yeah.
And I love that they did that. They took the whole, you know, idea that everyone can relate to, of those crazy sport parents, and they like took it 5 steps further. And it makes it funny. So the dark humor of this character is something that's like, I love dark humor. I mean, that's just my jam. And so that part of it is just kind of natural for me.
I wanted to touch back on how you said that you're the first person to do this live action sort of thing. Have you thought that in the future you're going to be long gone one day, and this character's going to be around? You're going to be the one that sets the stand for any future actors to play this character. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes. I mean, not often, but occasionally it'll hit me. In particular, since the show started airing, because you don't know how the fans are going to react until the show.
Never.
You have all these ideas based on other shows and other fan bases and all that stuff, but you don't know. They may hate it. They may be like, "Yeah, this sucks," and you hope that's not the case, but you have no control over it. It's one of the million things when you're an actor that you have zero control over. Fortunately, it seems to be really embraced by the fans, and especially my character and Joy's character. You know, people really seem to be responding. And so I get all these DMs on Instagram and stuff from fans, and I get all these, you know, it's great. I love it. Fan art and little fan videos that they edit together from the episodes, and I love that shit. I've always loved it, and it's just like the cherry on top of being a part of a show like this, is that you're a part of something people are excited about and people really respond to, and you just feel lucky. So yeah, I think about that. I think about like Comic-Con, and we would talk about this when we would sit around on set. We would be like, this could be like a big show, and like we could be at Comic-Con in a couple of years, and everybody's like our characters, and they're our characters, you know? So it certainly enters your mind, and you try not to put too much stock in it because you never know how it's going to pan out. But I think it's possible with this show because people seem to really like it.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's all I really wanted to know about acting wise. Well, thank you for joining me. It means a lot.
Yeah, man. That was fun. Good luck with your podcast.
And I couldn't help but notice you've got a lot of guitars in the background. What do you do musically?